Hello everyone, hi, and welcome to a new session. So today it's Thursday, and so it's the day for current updates. In today's current updates, I am planning to do the part 2 of some important texts. In the previous session of the current updates, we had talked about some important texts, and today I'm planning to do part 2 of this series of some important texts. These are important texts from, very exam perspective thing, right? So be it NET, SET, or any PSC exam or any competitive exam you're going for, these texts or these writers, I think they're going to be very important. Like in the last time in NET, they asked about Punjabi writers, Kashmiri writers, right? So these writers, or as we often say, there's voices from the margins, or the not so famous writers and authors. They're very famous, right? So I will just start sharing my screen. Okay, so here we are with our session of current updates, some important texts, part 2. So in today's session, let's talk about some important authors and texts who are important for exams and why these authors are important. We will talk about some of their works, life, etc. Okay, so let's see which texts we are going to talk about. So the first text is Interrogating My Chandal Life, an autobiography of a Dalit man. And it's a work by Manoranjan Vyapari. Okay, so Interrogating My Chandal Life. It's a very important work by Manoranjan Vyapari. So Manoranjan Vyapari is a Bengali Dalit writer and activist from West Bengal. And this is the first published autobiography of a Bengali Dalit to appear in Bengali as Itibritte Chandal Jibon. It was published in 2014. And this work was translated into English by Shipra Mukherjee. And this text portrays the journey of a poor, wretched, caste-ridden soul through surrounding socio-political topsy-turvy and tragic upheavals. Belonging to the categorization of lower caste, Namoshudro, or Chandal, Manoranjan Vyapari tends to articulate the ultimate excruciating pain of being both a Dalit and poor, where caste and poverty become the prime movers in deciding his tragic fate at every step of life. He says, I have lived my life as the ill-fated Dalit son of an ill-fated Dalit father, condemned to a life of bitterness. And please remember, this is the first published autobiography of a Bengali Dalit writer. Okay, generally we come across Dalit writings from the Marathi writers, right? But this is the writing of a Bengali Dalit writer, Interrogating My Chandal Life, an autobiography of a Dalit by Manoranjan Vyapari. And this work was translated from Bengali into English by Shipra Mukherjee. It was written in Bengali and it was translated into English by Shipra Mukherjee. Okay, so that's our first text. We will move on to the second text. Ananya, are you there? Ananya? Okay. So the next text we will talk about is Remnants of a Separation, a history of the partition through material memory by Achal Malhotra. It's a work of non-fiction. Remnants of a Separation, a history of the partition through material memory by Achal Malhotra. So Remnants of a Separation is a unique attempt to revisit the partition through objects that refugees carried with them across the border. Achal Malhotra is a materialist of partition studies. These belongings absorb the memory of a time and place, remaining latent and undisturbed for generations. They now speak of their owners' pasts as they emerge as testaments to the struggle, sacrifice, pain, and belonging at an unparalleled moment in history. A string of pearls gifted by a Maharaja carried from Dalhousie to Lahore reveals the grandeur of a life that once was. A notebook of poems brought from Lahore to Kalyan shows one woman's determination to pursue the written word despite the turmoil around her. A refugee certificate created in Calcutta evokes in her daughter the feelings of displacement her father had experienced upon leaving Mymensingh Zilla, now in Bangladesh. Written as a crossover between history and anthropology, Remnants of a Separation is the product of years of passionate research by Achal Malhotra. It is an alternative history of the partition, the first and only one told through material memory that makes the event tangible even 7 decades later. Achal Malhotra is such she's such a writer that, and she's a materialist. Remember, she talks about partition. She talks about the memories of partition through the objects that were there during the time of partition and how those objects evoke the horrors and terrors till this date. Okay, next. Yes, Ananya, next text.
The Small Town Sea by Anis Salim. Now, uprooted from a bustling city, the 13-year-old protagonist of The Small Town Sea is replanted in his father's hometown, where he struggles to cope with his new life. He reluctantly makes friends with Bilal, a boy who lives in the orphanage run by the local mosque. Now, together they embark on a clandestine adventure, while his ailing father, whose last wish is to die listening to the sea he has grown up by and written books about, rediscovers people from his childhood by accident. But his father's death unsettles the boy's life again, and he finds himself grappling with altogether unexpected challenges. Lyrical and haunting, sharply funny and achingly sad, The Small Town Sea is a masterful tale of love, friendship, and family from one of our most compelling storytellers. This is The Small Town Sea by Anis Salim.
Anis Salim is a very important Indian writer. Please do look up his works. Anis Salim is very important. Do look up all of his works, especially the work we have talked about here, The Small Town Sea. It's a very important novel by Anis Salim, right? So do look up Anis Salim. The next text is, okay, so before we talk about the next text, we just want to remind you that from 12th to 19th May, there will be an FDP where various professors will come in together and they will talk about the NEP strategies, and it's going to be a completely online program, and the fee is only rupees 1,000, and there is this number on the screen where you can contact for your further queries and get enrolled for this FDP program. All right, the next text we want to talk about is Indira Gandhi, A Life in Nature by Jairam Ramesh. So it's a work of biography. Again, a work of non-fiction. So generally we know Indira Gandhi as a politician, as our prime minister, but this biography is a very different type of work which talks about Indira Gandhi as a naturalist, her connections with nature. So Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister of India for 16 years, was as charismatic as she was controversial, at once admired and criticized for her political judgments and actions. Yet beyond such debate, what has not been fully understood is her lifelong communion with nature and how that defined her very being. Weaving personal, political, and environmental history, politician scholar Jairam Ramesh narrates the compelling story of Indira Gandhi, the naturalist. He tells us why and how she came to make a private passion a public calling, how her views on the environment remained steadfast even as her political and economic stances changed, how her friendships with conservationists led to far-reaching decisions to preserve India's biodiversity, how she urged cajoled and persuaded her colleagues as she took significant decisions, particularly regarding forests and wildlife, and how her own finely developed instincts and beliefs resulted in landmark policies, programs, initiatives, laws, and institutions that have endured. Drawing extensively from unpublished letters, notes, messages, and memoirs, Indira Gandhi, A Life in Nature, offers a lively conversational narrative of a relatively unknown, of a little known but fascinating aspect of Indira Gandhi's tumultuous life. Equally, the book acts as a compass to India at a time when the country faces the formidable challenge of ensuring ecological security and sustainability in its pursuit of high economic growth. These days, for any exam you go for, autobiographies and biographies, memoirs, diaries, letters, this genre itself of life writing is very important. All right, and that's why I thought this work is also very important, because often in exams we come across match the pairs or such works which we feel like we are seeing it for the first time. And so exploring these biographies, autobiographies, and works, it's very important, and it's an extremely important work. Indira Gandhi, A Life in Nature by Jairam Ramesh. It's a work of biography. Okay, next.
The Adivasi will not dance stories. Now, the Adivasi will not dance stories is a collection of short stories, the second book by Hansda Sowendra Shekhar. It was nominated for the Hindu Literary Prize in 2016 and included by Frontline magazine in August 2022 in a list of 25 books that light up the path to understanding post-independence Indian literature. The characters and settings of the stories are mostly from the community of Santhal people in the Indian state of Jharkhand, particularly about coal mining in India. Prominent themes include the condition of women in a patriarchal society, poverty, middle class Santhal life, the situation of Adivasi people, organized crime, tensions between traditionalism and modernity, the social damage caused by mining and sex work. This is The Adivasi Will Not Dance Stories. This is a collection of short stories by Hansdas Sowendra Shekhar.
Okay, so again, it's a very important work and it's a collection of stories. The next work is The Queen of Jasmine Country. So in The Queen of Jasmine Country, Sharanya Manivanan. Again, Sharanya Manivanan is an Indian author, columnist, and poet. Okay, so in this work, Sharanya Manivanan takes up a formidable challenge. She reimagines how Kodai becomes Andal. Remember who is Andal? She was the only female Tamil poet of South India. She was one of the 12 Alvars. So here the author reimagines how Kodai becomes Andal, the only woman among the 12 Alvars, or devotional poets who sang hymns in praise of Vishnu. While Andal belongs to a pantheon from which she will never be shaken, Manivanan envisions how an imperfect young woman, yearning for love and burning with desire, transcends human adoration and disappointment to become one with Vishnu. This is a story about many intangibles like love, devotion, and reverence, but packed with the beauty of the ordinary. The smell of flowers and camphor, the taste of milk and ghee, the sight of the colors of Madurai, and the feel of the dampness of the Tulsi Grove. Again, it's a wonderful work which reimagines the life of Andal, the only female Tamil poet from South India. She was one of the 12 Alvars. And again, these poets or these saint poets were always given a quasi-divine position, right? They were considered as something beyond human, right? But this work gives her a very humanly perspective, gives her life a very humanly perspective. Here she is not only seen as a saint, but also an ordinary woman who also yearns for love, who also yearns for desire, but she fulfills her love and desire through the union with the divine lover, through union, through her union with Vishnu. Okay, next work.
A Day in the Life by Anjum Hassan. It is a collection of 14 short stories. These 14 tales of human conscience transport you into another world where you meet with different characters. They are going through many experiences. They're questioning themselves and exploring their life simultaneously. It's fascinating how Hassan placed her characters into different states of India, yet each character shared a sense of strangeness. This is A Day in the Life by Anjum Hassan.
Anjum Hassan is a very, very, very important writer. She is an Indian novelist, short story writer, poet, and editor. She graduated in philosophy from Northeastern Hill University in Shillong, Meghalaya. So, and she currently lives in Bangalore, Karnataka, India. Anjum Hassan is a very important writer. Her first book was a collection of poems, Street on the Hill, published by Sahitya Academy in 2006. So her debut poetry collection was Street on the Hill, and it was published by the Sahitya Academy in 2006. So she is a writer from the northeast of India. Her debut novel, Lunatic in My Head, was shortlisted for the Crossword Book Award. Set in Shillong in the early 1990s, it weaves together the stories of three main characters and has been described by Siddhartha Deb as haunting and lyrical. So, Anjum Hassan is a very important writer from Northeast. To look up her works, her poetry collections, her novels, everything, she's a very important writer. Okay. So before we wrap up, it's just a small reminder that from May 12 to 19, there will be an FDP where you can enroll now. And it's a completely online program. And there is this number on the screen where you can contact for further queries and get enrolled accordingly. Okay, so that's all for tonight. I really hope you guys enjoyed the discussion and the works we talk about. So do look up those authors we have discussed here and their works, because all of these writers, be it writers of fiction or non-fiction, they're very important. So do look up their works and life and everything. So all right. So Ananya, shall we wrap up?
Yes, definitely. Good night, everyone.
Yes. So all right. So we will see you again tomorrow at 9 p.m.